Emotional intelligence can go all the way to the maximum of total self-awareness. There's two different formations as far as emotions are going. Normal emotions do not have any affliction to them. Normal emotions are information about the experience of life. Malformations, emotions that are maladaptive, are fight or flight emotions. Now, these fight or flight emotions are not natural. What they are is they're the combination of the fight or flight reaction containing an emotional state rather than an external threat. And what this does is it devastates the human consciousness because it puts people in a hypervigilant avoidance of certain emotions internally and externally. And when a human mind is subdued by these emotions, it has to disconnect. And so what happens is that the analytical thinking is a compensation to try to escape these emotions because the thoughts that are forming are simply the way in which these emotions get connected to the here and now. That what ends up happening is the analytical mind is attempting to understand these emotions. And by trying to understand them, we explain their existence as if they have some natural origin. But you see, that's the illusion. See, emotions come to us in reality, pre-packaged. That's why none of the talk therapy that you ever will do will help you, because instead of looking at you and making you wrong or right and judging you and trying to analyze and correct your behavior, trying to control yourself is the opposite of enlightenment. That will burn you out, and you notice that you can't. It's so hard to change your habits because your habits are created by your emotional framework. Your habits are created by everything you're avoiding because of these emotional force fields. What do I mean by an emotional force field? When the fight or flight reaction is affecting and afflicting you, it creates an unnatural aversion to life. That you're avoiding success in the avoidance of failure. You're avoiding love in the avoidance of abandonment. You're avoiding everything, including your own development, that the risk of failure is preventing you from mastering things. And see, if you never had to think about yourself, then your entire mind would be dedicated to whatever you're doing. That if you didn't imagine what it would be like if you just couldn't feel the anxiety. Imagine if there just wasn't a fear of failure. Why do you need a fear of failure? The fear of failure nearly guarantees failure because it devastates your mind. It reduces your potential. When you have to consider what you're capable of, well, what you've been capable of has been hamstrung by fear this whole time. And so it's a chicken or the egg. That the fear and anxiety that's screwing up your mind and forcing you to fail and avoid and quit and hesitate and double think and get overstimulated and collapse. You don't understand that anxiety is devastating to you. Anxiety is crippling your creativity. It's crippling your capacity to see what's possible. See, these malignant stalking people never understand that the reason that they're fixated on me is because their brain does not work well enough for them to navigate their life. If somebody had anything going on in their life that was remotely positive, they would not be obsessed with somebody else. When you make your identity about somebody else's suffering, you are a loser. You have literally surrendered to darkness, and that is the opposite of enlightenment. Unenlightened people are ignorant, small-minded victims who can't do anything for themselves, who have no hope, no inspiration, no love, no self-love, because they can't. They're neurologically impaired in a state of fear and victimhood. That's what victim mentality is. It's somebody who is suspended in smallness, childlike mentality, where they can't see the forest from the trees because they're looking through the framework of a tiny toddler child that's scared shitless. And because they're scared, suppressed, and angry, they can't go out there and do anything for themselves. If they get to watch life passing them by, they're too ashamed of themselves to get up off their lazy fat ass, and so they stalk people. But you see, that will never work. You see, if you want true freedom, then the first thing that we do in my coaching is we become totally emotionally self-aware in one instant moment. What we do is we set aside the analytical mind. You don't have to explain your life. We take an example of your life that you don't even tell me about, a recent event that you would consider traumatic in psychology. In the last 2 years, pick the worst thing that's ever happened to you. It doesn't matter what it is. Then what we do is without describing or justifying or explaining, we start to separate the emotions. I teach emotional awareness by providing total distinction of each and individual emotion within you, with no judgment, no fear, no hesitation, by taking away your need to analyze and feel understood, because that's part of your hypervigilant need for security and safety with others, this feeling of being misunderstood that makes you frustrated. We set that aside. We don't need to validate the way that you were. What we're looking at is we're simply looking at what it's like for you. Underneath your thoughts, underneath your opinions, underneath your beliefs, you have these powerful emotions. Now, what we're going to do is we're just going to take a look at all of them. And by having your conscious mind tease out every single emotion, it starts the process of separating these emotions from reality. When you understand exactly the way betrayal works in your mind, when you understand what not good enough looks like, what something's wrong with me looks like, what abandoned and alone and broken looks like, when you can sense these emotions, now your conscious mind knows what to let go of later. And so what you see is that your mind tells you these emotions are because of reality. Then in the coaching, we expand out of that moment, and you'll see that those traumatic emotions are already alive and real in every aspect of your current life, that you're avoiding them, you're fighting them, you're disproving them. And whatever betrayal event led you to this rock bottom place, and you think that it's because of what happened that you feel this way, you discover that you already felt that way, that you were slipping into it, that underneath all of the effort and analyzing and thought and energy and anxiety are these powerful emotions that are always and already there that you have to disconnect from. And the only change is that when that future goal disappears, you don't have the positive memories of that future event. You don't have the ability to hope. And then you fall into the abyss of the very emotions that you've been running from your whole life. And that's all it is. That there's a dark cloud following you. And you use your analytical mind to disconnect. That something bad happens, you're like, oh, I don't want to overreact, because you can't act on these emotions. And so you have to act in opposition. You have to act confident and drink alcohol. You got to show up to the job interview and fake it till you make it. You have to do that every single day of your life, and it's exhausting you because it's a fight or flight attack against your psyche. And they're using fear on you. They're giving you all this psychology bullshit that's total garbage. We do not need to indulge the victimhood of yesterday. We have to let go of the emotions that are affecting you right now in the moment. The way you are being right now in the moment is simply the way reality shows up. And reality comes prepackaged with these past emotions. So you're not making mistakes, because your mind is only giving you a couple options. You're always in a rock and a hard place because the fight or flight reaction is taking away your higher self. Like, notice that when you sink into these low states, you lose your ability to think, problem solve, love, and create. And so you're losing yourself emotionally. And you're just getting neurologically stuck. That the stuck feelings, the paralyzed feelings, the procrastinations, it's not really laziness. That is an invisible force field of fight or flight fear, where something good for you, your brain is telling you to avoid it. And something bad for you, your brain is telling you to attract it. And so when your emotions are backwards, and you know they're backwards because you could feel alone around people, you could feel not good enough even though you are, you could feel guilt and shame even though you did nothing wrong. And when these types of emotions are dominating the architecture of reality, and you're forced to prove yourself even though you already know you're good enough, you already know it's not your fault. And here you are, your whole life dedicated to overcoming things that aren't true. That is why we need the truth to set you free. And we have to become totally aware of these emotions, because we can let them go. You just have to be aware of their existence. We have to put some language around them. We have to separate them out from reality. There's a little bit of work to do. It's not painful at all. This is not based on trauma. This is based on being in the moment. That your past has nothing to do with who you are right now, except for the fact that the same emotions have been on repeat as fight or flight reactions contaminating your mind. It is not the trauma that caused this. This is what caused the trauma, not from the outcome standpoint, but the lingering emotional triggers. They were already there for that misinterpretation to happen. Life is not about you. It's time to wake up to a new view of life. That is transformation. When the view of life changes, It's easy.